This is Talking Drupal, a weekly chat about web design and development from a group of people with one thing in common. We love Drupal. This is episode 325, Gin Admin Theme. Welcome to Talking Drupal. Today we're talking about the Gin Admin theme with Sascha Eggenberger. Sascha is a senior user experience designer at Unique, one of the lead designers on the Drupal design system, one of the lead designers of the Drupal design system, co-maintainer of Claro, and creator of the Gin Admin theme. Sascha, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm John Picozzi, and today my co-hosts are Nick Laughlin. Nick, what's going on with you?
Not too much. I'd just like to take a moment to do a little PSA. So I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but I occasionally get like some pain in my shoulders and neck, and I just want to remind people you should take breaks every hour or two to stretch, take a walk. You know, I think they're saying now you should take a 5 or 10 minute break every 2 hours or so.
I agree with that, but usually see at a cup of coffee. I don't know if I mean,
that's fine too, but you know, roll your shoulders, take a walk, and take a moment to even if it's just a couple of minutes, it's really good, especially now that everybody's kind of staying at home and, you know, not going to the next cubicle to have a chat.
I feel like that's the benefit of having an office on the second floor is like I at least get a set of stairs in when having to go, you know, get lunch, get coffee.
That works.
So yeah, stretching, super important. Kevin, what's going on with you?
Hello again, back in Chicago this time around. So that's it is what it is. And I'm just want to like kind of highlight the what's behind me. It's we're trying to figure out what to do. We moved recently, and it's a little bit smaller than our last place. And there, I don't know if you just heard that, but there's the L train just outside my window. It's cold out, so the window's closed, which is good. But trying to figure out with a lot of my extra camp t-shirts. And so through an inspirational tweet from Steve Persh at Pantheon, he did something that kind of kicked off this idea with using t-shirts to also dampen sound. And so these are acoustic tiles that we've kind of put the shirts onto with Stitch Witchery, which is like an iron-on fabric tape. Actually, my partner, Andrea Soper, Zen Doodles, some people may know that name in the Drupal world, but yeah, she actually did all the work, and they all tell a story. So this is the first 12, and it's just going to kind of grow throughout the walls. So it's pretty cool.
That is totally cool. Question: is there an instructional video on how to achieve this somewhere?
There is not, but it's. I mean, I could. Okay. I mean, it's pretty. She ironed it. She cut them. We did cut the shirts because just, you know, I had thought to try to do a way where there's just too much shirt to get back there.
Yeah. That's
what I was going through.
Yep.
Yeah. So theoretically, you could build like a small, like if you did one buys, you could do a little small hex frame so that you could get some depth and then stuff the shirt into that. But that was too much effort. I mean, I was going to donate the shirts, so this way, at least now they're art.
Yeah. No, that's a super cool idea because I've got a million shirts, and I'm reluctant to get rid of any of them. So
yeah, and that's why I chose ones that had specific meaning. And they're hung on like we did just a thumbtack with gaffer's tape. Just one tack, shove it in the wall.
That
there
works.
you go. That works.
I was going to ask you about it. I mean, I remember the tags on the on the left, but
which is quite a bit.
But the acoustic tiles are pretty cool too.
It's a great idea. I'm going to have to steal that. I don't know which wall I would put those on, but we'll see about that.
And once the windows open, I did take decibel recordings prior to this, so because we're just curious, like, do the acoustic tiles actually make a difference? Because when the train rolls around, it's really loud.
You don't sound as echoey as Nick, so that's good.
I just need more Lego.
Yeah, you more Lego. Yeah. Sascha, what is going on with you this week?
Yeah, so I'm back from a cold, so there wasn't much happening this week, unfortunately. But I recently I bought a stroller. So I'm getting a dad in like April next year, and so yeah, preparation started. And
So
one of the first things we bought was a stroller. You know.
so correct me
That's
if I'm
exciting.
wrong. This is your first child, yes?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Cool. Strollers are important. I remember I have two kids, and we obviously use the same stroller for both of them, but we
Mhm.
liked it so much because it was like it was a larger stroller, but it was also had good tires on it to be able to go over rougher terrain.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, they make strollers for everything nowadays, like running strollers, off-roading strollers, like city strollers, country strollers. So,
Yeah, it was quite hard to find the right one or to make a decision because, as you mentioned, there were like I was like, well, maybe there are like a few different ones, and I will just choose one of them. I was completely wrong. Also, like talking to friends, and then everybody had like his or her own opinion on things and what
sure.
is important and what you should need to have and what is like the right package, and you need to exchange things. And so yeah, it was not so easy as I thought it would be, but we finally have one.
There you
So
go. And the important thing is that it's good for you.
yeah, it's sitting here in the box behind me. So
Ah,
still need to unpack it and build it.
Assemble it.
there you go.
Yeah.
So for me this week, we're getting ready for Christmas here in the Picozzi household, and I bought some new Christmas decorations from Amazon. Got some Christmas blow-ups. Prior to this, we did not have Christmas blow-ups. And for anybody wondering what I mean, it's basically a little fan inside of a shape of a Christmas decoration. Fan goes on, shape blows up, and you tack it to the ground. Looks great. So we bought two of them. My kids were very excited about that, and yeah, you know what? I recommend them. I got them again from Amazon. They were like $50 US, so not exactly
What
the
did you
cheapest.
get?
Got a Frosty, Snowman, and Santa. So
Classic.
we can toss some links to those in the show notes for anybody that may or may not be interested. All right, let's move.
Snow globes are cool in those expandables.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen those. You get the snow blowing around and stuff. Yeah.
It's funny. It's like when you start to go car shopping and you see like, oh, I'm thinking like I'm gonna buy like a Dodge Charger or something, and then you start seeing Dodge Chargers everywhere. And now I'm driving around looking at everybody's blow ups, like, oh, that one's cool. Oh, this one's cool. My wife's like, hey, we should get one. We should get one with like a sled and reindeer that we could put on the roof. And like our roof, like on the back of the house is like 3 stories up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not climbing up there to put that on there and take that down. But yeah, you're totally right, Kevin. Totally right. All right, let's move on to the module of the week. I actually found this module. I was doing some research on Layout Builder and paragraphs this week. And I found this module, which I thought was interesting. Was going to ask everybody if they'd ever used it before. It's called Layout Paragraphs. And the gist of it is it basically enables Layout Builder-esque drag and drop for paragraphs, which if you've worked with paragraphs in the past, you know that the admin UI can be challenging sometimes. So this kind of gives you the best of both worlds with the Layout Builder kind of drag and drop capability, but instead of using blocks, using paragraphs. Wondering if anybody here has used it.
I have
No,
not.
but that looks.
No.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, there you go. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, so we're using that in a lot of projects currently for different clients. Also, Chin enables or like enhances the module itself. So there are some nifty enhancements if you use it together with Gin. So this was also like quite a focus because of our clients are using it, and yeah, it's like the way to go in between layout builder and paragraphs. So it basically combines both worlds together, especially if you're running like a headless site and you just need to have some, for whatever reason, some layouts for clients to choose from, and just expose those like this data over like an API, for example. So it's like nicely integrated in the backend. Yeah, it's working great so far. I think the folks of the module are currently working also on a 2x branch, so a new branch with a lot of refactoring. I just saw it like a few days ago, didn't have a huge look into it, but just saw that there's a lot of development going on in the module itself.
And so does it create like the layout paragraphs when you install it, and then you're just kind of putting the element pieces that you want to drag into it?
So the module itself is more like a plugin. So like a field widget or something like that. So you just say, okay, you have like a paragraph field, and you say you want to output it with layout paragraphs. And then you create a paragraph, or you use an existing one, and you say, okay, this one will now use layout paragraphs. And then you can provide your own layouts, which are like the same YAML files as you would use for layout builder itself. So you can have like complex layouts or just simple layouts, like 2-column layouts, 3-column layouts, whatever. And then you can just use them and place your paragraphs in the different layouts. And also you can also put layouts in layouts if you, I don't know for what reason, but you could do that. So it's quite useful. There's also like a module called layout builder restriction, layout paragraphs restriction, LB restriction, I believe is the name, which is also a very handy module. So with that extension, you can basically say, okay, which paragraphs can be used in which sections of layouts. So
cool.
if you have like a slider or a gallery, you might not want that users or like the editors can place that in a 4-column layout. You want to restrict that maybe to a 1-column layout, and with the restriction module, you can actually do that. So these two models in combination with Gin is quite handy. If you if you want to upgrade like a site you run paragraphs on. So if it's like a legacy site and you want to bring in maybe something fresh, this module will help you to kickstart to get in touch with Layout Builder without having to refactor the whole thing with Layout Builder itself. So yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it's quite a nice approach. So like in between layout paragraphs.
There you go, folks. You can get all the great layout functionality of Layout Builder with your existing paragraphs. There you go. Drupal Contrib, helping the community do things better. Love it. Let's move on to our primary topic. So, first and foremost, I think it would be helpful to understand what is the elevator pitch for the Gin admin theme.
Yeah, so I would say it's like a state-of-the-art admin interface, optimized for content editors, like for content editing in particular, with a lot of customization options. So Gin has like the accent color, like the focus ring color. You might be familiar if you're using Claro, you have like this green outline for focus. So Gin has an option to change the color of that. For example, it has a dark mode. It has a high contrast mode for accessibility reasons. There are like a ton of options in this thing. So if you opt for freedom, or you want to customize the admin experience for your content editors or site admins or for your clients, it has a lot of room to just modify the theme with settings. And it's, by the way, it's also like the most installed admin theme in Drupal 9, with over 12,000 reported installations on Drupal.org. So there's quite a bit of movement there. And yeah, a wide range of distributions are also switching to Chin, like OpenSocial did, local government, like local gov distribution, Farm OS, and a lot more. So yeah, I hope that's enough for the elevator pitch. That was also quite a long one already.
Yeah, that's okay. We go down rabbit holes here. Feel free anytime. you see a rabbit hole, you take it.
Cool.
How did the theme come about, and also specifically how about the naming? Because I'm a gin drinker.
Yeah, so as I outlined also in some DrupalCon talks about the naming and the origin of the gin theme, the word origin has a huge impact here. So the original idea was to come up with like a new theme. And it would just extend Claro or some bits of Claro. So the first 1x branch of Gin was basically just the ability to change the accent color. So instead of the blue we have in Claro, like called Claro Blue, you could opt for green or red or orange or whatever color you like. And that was basically the beginning also for customizations for our clients. So it started just as a small customization layer. And because the origin would be Claro, or like the base theme would be Claro, so I opted for the name Origin as a, like from, like the word source. Yeah. But Origin is quite a well-known company. And well, I don't think they would bother, but I just wanted to make sure we have a different name, and Origin has the name Gin in it. And I also like gin, the drink. Yes. So I basically combined both together. So yeah, clever. But the intentional naming was not the, like the drink itself or like the alcoholic drink, but it was like from the word origin in the beginning.
So you mentioned that gin kind of builds on top of Claro, and the first step was giving some flexibility for accent colors and things like that. How else does gin enhance Claro at this point?
Yeah, so I think generally you can say that gin is basically like a love letter to Claro. So it still uses Claro as a base theme. They're like interconnected in so many multiple ways. And yeah, Gin basically just builds up on Claro, but it just goes further than what we can achieve with Claro. So being involved with Claro and the Drupal design system for multiple years now, we know, how the gears work and how fast we can iterate. The main goal with Claro still be that we get to a stable release and make it the default admin theme. There was this thing called DrupalCon Amsterdam in 2019. It was back in the day when we could go to, like to events on site and having like a good time. And I mean the Claro design team, we had like a talk about the Drupal design system and Claro and how things will look like in the future. And we also outlined some early design explorations of our vision, how Drupal could look like in the future. And these were basically some early design explorations I did before the conference, and we showcased that. And the feedback was so overwhelming of that people really want to have like this future approach we showed them. And people were so focused on, okay, when can we have, like the hands on that? But that was just a vision and was not like the product we're currently working on, right? It's like 2 steps or like 3 steps in the future. So yeah, and then combined with what we already did with Gin, with like the small customization layer, I decided to just start working on trying to implementing like this vision as a prototype in a contract theme. And as Gin was already there, and we wanted to use the opportunity to use the theme with our clients to get instant feedback. So doing like some user research and getting like feedback from real users. Eventually, like the Chin theme from the 1x branch, which was just the accent color, evolved to the 3x branch we have today, which is already quite a stable theme. And then along the way, we added the dark mode. It sounds as a very small feature, but it was a pain to work on that, especially because you need to be, I think like the hardest thing you can do is creating an admin theme, to be honest with you, because if you create a module, it serves a certain purpose, but the admin theme needs to serve all the different modules, all the different possibilities, what you can do with Drupal. So there wasn't, like when I started with Chin, besides working on the designs for Claro, I think I didn't have that in mind, how much work it will be. But yeah, so this is where everything started, and we're still in the working phase for both Claro and Chin, of course.
So just a question on that point. You're working on both of these things, obviously. Why do you think that Jin or the feature set of Jin didn't make it into Claro? Was it an effort to reduce bloat in core, or was it viewed as like these features aren't necessarily needed for every project?
I won't say that like or I won't just say that like we currently looking into a lot of features we potentially could upport to Claro, like to include in core at some point, but currently like the state of Claro, or like the roadmap clearly outlines that the main target is to get stable, because without like adding features over and over again won't get us to this point to get it stable. And if we can't get stable, we cannot set it as the default theme for Drupal. So there's some dependencies and some trade-offs you need to do. I still think, or I still believe that Claro on its own is a huge improvement over what we had. And yeah, Chin is basically more on the, lives more on the edge of things. We try out all the new things. It's the fancy UI, and Claro is maybe more the solid one. So some features of Chin will be ported over to Claro in the future for sure. We cannot define which ones, but it's also like a test bed having Chin. So for example, we have like 3 different toolbar options in Chin. We have like the vertical navigation approach, we have the classic horizontal navigation, and we have like a minimized or like a minimal version of the horizontal toolbar. So we're also experimenting with different approaches and getting feedback from users. And with that feedback, we can already do a pre-decision if a certain feature is worth trying to get into core, into Claro or not. So, so this is basically also why Chin exists. It's sorry.
That makes. I was just gonna say that makes a lot of sense. It's hard enough to get something into core. It's even harder if that thing keeps moving, right? So, being able to have kind of Jin as an optional add-on, get to stable, get to in core, and then incrementally build on that makes a lot of sense. So
I did have a question about the toolbars though. Are those separate modules, or is that something a user can individually choose which one they want to use?
So yeah, everything is built into Jin itself, into the theme, which is also a bit of a pain from a dev point of view, because we're stretching quite the limits of what a theme should do and what a theme can do in Drupal. We hit a lot of different limitations, and also there are like a bunch of issues in the core issue queue related to that development. But yeah, so there are some things like an admin theme cannot do. So for example, if you if you have like a classic Drupal site with a Drupal theme in the front end, and you want to have like the same toolbar in the front end, and admin theme doesn't have any access to the front end, so it doesn't have any impact there. So I think like users from the past who used or still use at minimal know this issue. You have like the nice black or like dark admin toolbar in at minimal, but you couldn't have that in the front end. You need to install a helper module, which basically injects or attaches the library from the admin theme into the front end to have like the styling and the right templates applied. We are having basically like a similar approach in Gin. So we have a module called Gin Toolbar, which is basically providing all the different abilities we cannot integrate into Gin. So one of them is the toolbar in the front end to output like the same that you have like not a break that you have like in one end you have like the classic Drupal toolbar, and then you go to the back end, and then you have like the new one. So with that, we can make sure that it's a seamless experience. Gin Toolbar is also, it's not yet a requirement, but it will be a requirement in the future because there are other abilities you can do in Gin. So with all those overrides or those flexibility with accessibility, like the accessibility options, like high contrast mode or like the dark mode and the accent color, there's also quite an underrated feature which lets you expose those settings to the user settings. So each individual user can override the settings. So settings like high contrast and dark mode are quite user specific ones. You might set up like your site, and then you provide, I don't know, like your custom client logo, and maybe do some adjustments in Gin to the branding, setting the accent color and stuff like that. But then you might set just the toolbar to the vertical navigation or to the horizontal or whatever. But maybe your user want to have a different or has a different opinion on that. So I think the future, there's also a great talk called the future of accessibility is choice, right? And I really believe in that terms. So we made sure that users can override all the settings and make the experience their experience. So also for the dark mode, recently we shipped the new feature, so you can now also set it to auto. So it will, like Drupal will just behave as your system. So if your system goes to dark, Drupal will automatically on the fly switch to dark mode and back. So stuff like that. So yeah,
I would say if you've never used the vertical menu in Gin, you should go try it right away, because I'm using it on my personal site, and it's a little bit of a game changer. I do enjoy it. It's super easy to configure, right? So that could be one of the many reasons people love Gin. But Sascha, I'm wondering what you think. Obviously you gave the numbers earlier of how many people have downloaded Gin or using Gin. Why do you think so many people love the Gin admin theme?
I think that's a question to all the people out there, right? But I think it's, as I said, because people love choice, and people love all the fancy things, and I think Gin is currently as fancy as it can get in terms of Drupal admin themes, just because it's different, not because it's very shiny or whatever, but it has some different approaches in it, and it's different to what we used to. So I think that can be quite a differentiation, but I think the main difference is, as I said, choice, because it has so many settings. You can customize it to your liking, to your distributions liking, to inherit like your distribution branding or your client's branding or your own company's branding. If you want to use it, for example, 1x Internet uses it as, and they brand it for their own DXP These are all examples where Chin shines. We also have some nitty things which might not be so obvious in the beginning. There's also like you can create like a Chin dash custom CSS file and place it in your public folder. Chin will take it up, and then you can just do basically overrides, CSS overrides if you want to do overrides to the theme. We also use CSS-free variables, so you might just change a variable to your liking, and then it will throughout the whole UI change. Spoiler alert, I'm currently working on the facelift, and in there or with the facelift, almost everything will be a CSS-free variable. So even toolbar size, icon sizes, and in the future also spacing. So we want also to have another option in the future to change the density of the layout, so that you could go to a denser layout, because with if you design or work for accessibility, you have to have different standards, and that also means that spacing is a huge thing to do or has a huge impact. Some people might not like it and want to have a more dense layout. That was also the biggest feedback when we came out with the first version for Claro, was that 7 was so more dense, in terms of I don't know, like on a list. If you're on the content list, for example, the content overview page, you could see more data there. And yeah, with that option, we could also maybe have some impact that you can change the density of different parts in the UI as well. So yeah, it has so many customizations options, and you can basically override everything without going the hard route of sub-theming an admin theme. And I think another spoiler alert here, if you ever did that to, I don't know, at Minimal, Claro, Chin, whatever, it's a hard thing, because you have to override all the libraries which are inherited from the base theme or from the upper theme. And if there is one single change, you need to reflect that change, otherwise it will blow up. And so with every, let's say, release, you need to make sure that you're on par with the parent theme you're inheriting from. So this is quite different or it is a bit different because with front-end themes in Drupal, you also have to check that, but not in the same behavior as with admin themes, for example. So yeah, there are some limitation with admin themes, especially that admin themes have more limitations than front-end themes. For example, CK editor styles cannot be provided by an admin theme. It's only allowed for front-end themes, which again needed me to do a workaround. So we're currently doing that through the helper module, the Chin toolbar module, because a module can do changes to CK editor. So we can attach the styles through the module to CK editor, because the theme is not able to do that. Things like that. I could go forever talking about restrictions and how we solve things, but
yeah. So you actually just won me over in answer to a later question by saying that you can override things simply with just adding a CSS file, because one of the pain points for building a Drupal site, many times clients don't have the budget or need for like a fully customized admin experience, but there's usually one or two small pain points, and the effort to make a sub theme for the admin theme just to fix those small things is usually significant. So many times that's been a challenge. So being able to just override something like that is a huge win. The other thing that you mentioned that I'd like to highlight, because I think it's really important, is many times sites or people forget too when they're building a site that your editors are people too, and that experience has to be accessible, right? When people are looking at making their site accessible, quote unquote, they're just looking at the front end, they're looking at their anonymous users or their customers. They're not looking at the people that are adding the content, editing the content, and you need to make that accessible for them as well. And so if you're giving that control or that choice to the person using the site, as an admin, I think that's a huge win for both for people using the site, but Drupal as a whole. I don't know how many projects can say that their admin theme is fully accessible. I mean, that's always been that's a big win for the Drupal community.
Yeah, I think you made a good point here, because I think for too long we focused only on the site building experience, like taking site builders as our end users, which is technically not true, because these are just users which serve over the lifetime of the project. Of course, in the beginning, while building the site, they're the main target group, right? So, but in the lifespan of the product, the content editors and content admins and like people who create and administer, create, delete, and whatever like content, media, whatever they do with Drupal, they're for a very long period they will use Drupal, and these are also the people you need to convince that Drupal is the right tool in the future, right? Because if content editors are not really comfortable with the product, the adoption of Drupal in the future is not guaranteed. Because if you can, we have so many tools out there. There are so many great CMSs and out there, right? And if you compare, we also did like comparison studies before we started with Claro, and we compared to like other systems like Contentful, for example, and or like WordPress, Gutenberg editor, and stuff like that. So I think like having in the future a bigger eye on the content editor as a persona or as a target group, besides site builders, will be crucial for the success of Drupal. And this is exactly why I started Gin, because we had a lot of feedback of content editors where they were looking for stuff in the wrong place, or, well, they weren't looking for it in the wrong place. It was placed in the wrong place, of course.
Yeah.
But, there were a lot of issues, and we wanted to work around these issues and coming up with different solutions. And,
yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, many times when I'm talking to a new client about a potential project and they're resistant to Drupal, the reason is the decision makers are content editors, and the content editing workflow or experience, if you don't pay a lot of attention to it, can be very painful, especially for somebody who doesn't live in their day and day. And usually the decision makers on projects, they'll go into their Drupal site once a quarter or twice a year and try to edit something, get frustrated, and then just tell somebody else to do it. And so that's their sum total knowledge of Drupal. And so when they're starting a new project, a new greenfield project, that their decision is anything but Drupal. But if you provide a good experience for them on the content editing side, on the management side, the few times that they use it, then Drupal's back on the table. So
exactly, yeah. But also, there's so many great initiatives and issues or like ideas in the ideas issue queue currently piling up. So there's a lot of movement going in the right direction. So there was also quite recently the content editing role added to Drupal, which wasn't even existing until now, like the content editor role. There's also a proposal for another editor role, which is like more of a content manager role. So if you have a huge team, so maybe only managers can sign off publications or whatever, right? So, and this will also like like provide the way in the future to make even more how should I say that, like to make more customizations also for this target group, for this new to create like new stuff. So there's in the issue queue as well we came up like in the Claro team, or like in the easy out of the box initiative, we came up with like an idea to create like a content editor menu, which is specialized of the needs what content editors need to do. Because, you know, if you're logged into a Drupal system into the backend and you're a site builder, you have a lot of navigation items which speak to you. But if you're a content editor, you might see a complete different picture where you only have like 1 or 2 main navigation points. So you might have blocks on the structure because you need to create custom blocks, and then you have content, which, you know, obviously, and then media, but you might not have any settings available to you because of permissions, or nothing going on in the theme part or whatever. So coming up with or like combining the needs of content editors into its own menu structure maybe could be also like a huge improvement for them. So like serving really the purpose and the need of what they need to do. And as I mentioned before, it's like creating content, managing content, and so on. And we just want to try in the future to make life as easy as possible for them, because you mentioned it, it's a very, very big target group, and it's the main target group because basically these are the end users, right, for Drupal. So
yeah, really good points. Sascha, you mentioned the Gin admin toolbar. Can you talk about some of the other add-on modules for the Gin team?
Yeah, so there's also like the Gin login module, which
looks gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, basically provides you just a nice login screen for Drupal. So if you're not creating like a custom login screen because you're running, I don't know, like a marketing site or whatever, which doesn't have like a user-facing login, you might end up just having like an unstyled login screen to Drupal, and
very common.
Right, and this module basically fills the gap. Also, if you're going the headless route or the decoupled route, you might not have anything styled in the backend because you know the front end is written in React or Vue or whatever, and so you can use the module, install it. It provides you a nice login screen, and it also interconnects with Gin, so all the customization options are automatically available. So auto dark mode, accent color, high contrast mode, everything is just seamlessly integrated into Gin login as well, or it picks up all of those things. So this is one of the modules which makes this seamless experience which you want to achieve, right? And then we are also working on some other stuff. So in my last DrupalCon talk, I talked about the idea of re-adding the dashboard to Drupal, but this time not like this general one-size-fits-all dashboard, but more a role-based preset dashboard, which could have like
missing
presets for each role. So content editors would see something different than site builders or site admins. And we could basically build that with Layout Builder nowadays, and then you could just drop in whatever add-on you wanted. You could use every single block, custom blocks or predefined blocks. So this is one of the ideas I have in mind. So this would be a great add-on in the future to reintroduce like a dashboard. We're also thinking about like having a permissions module. We started some work there and then stopped it because of other priorities, but that you could also outline permissions to all the overrides which Gin provides, that you could say, okay, maybe not every single group of users can do overrides to the Gin settings, or you might only want to expose, I don't know, like the dark mode, but not the accent color. Right, stuff like that. For that, we would need permissions, but the theme cannot provide permissions, so we need a module for that. And then there are also some other contrib modules from like different people within the Drupal community. So somebody created the Gin layout builder module, which nicely integrates Gin with layout builder. There's also the same module for Claro, because also Claro currently does not so nicely integrate with layout builder.
Yep.
But there's Claro layout builder module, and now there's like the Gin layout builder module, which basically does the same to enhance the experience for Gin and providing you all the customization options. Somebody created the Gin Gutenberg module, which nicely integrates Gutenberg with Gin. So there's a bunch of modules out there, and there will be some more stuff coming in the future. So the backlog is full of ideas.
So I'm curious about what it's been like working on Gin, where your base theme is experimental. Has that, and you're also on the team for that base theme, has that presented any unique challenges?
Not really, no. I mean, we're like Claro is still experimental as of requirements in Drupal core, but in terms of stability, it's already quite stable. So there are some features missing. Maybe some parts of the UI are not fully themed yet with the new design system, or like taking over. But in terms of stability, I would say Claro was already for I don't know, like over a year, quite stable. And yeah, Gin just builds on top of an experimental theme. That's right. But Gin itself is labeled as an alpha theme, so it's in the alpha state. I think if it would be any other module I maintain, it would be maybe like like a beta 15 or a release candidate 1 already. But I'm quite picky on which features need to be in that we reach that beta 1 goal. It's just a naming issue, and my brain or how I want to have like things done for this milestone, which is called beta 1. And I'm talking for that for forever. I know that. I already outlined that in my previous DrupalCon talks and stuff like that. But we're really, really near the beta 1 release. So
I'm gonna actually, sorry, go ahead.
No.
I'm gonna change the question Nick asked just a little bit there. Has there been any major change to Claro that has affected Gin, or that has forced you to kind of refactor parts of Gin?
Not really.
Or vice versa.
Not really. Of course, there are always some things, if they land in core, then I need to make sure that nothing breaks for Gin. But usually, because I'm involved in both, I already know what's coming, and I can make sure that it's fixed until it gets released with core. But I think like the critical issues we had in the beginning were fixed when Claro was still a contrib theme, because like the whole thing started as a contrib theme that we could iterate faster or move on faster until to a critical state where we said, okay, this is now or everything is included that we can mark it as experimental and include it into core. But that was maybe also the tipping point where things started to slow down a bit, which is good and bad at the same time. Right, like if things take longer, it's usually bad from a user's perspective, but from the perspective of the quality of what goes in, it's also good, because now it needs to qualify all the different quality gates and have all the right sign-offs and making sure that nothing breaks, which is really, really good. So that's why I'm saying, like, even if it's marked as experimental, this is also due because it's not completed yet. It's already quite stable, and Gin just builds on the foundation of Claro. So Gin overrides a lot of things of Claro, but it uses like the foundation still of Claro. which is like the like all the templates provided by Claro, which were refactored for accessibility reasons to have like all the right markup there and stuff like that. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yep. So who all is on the Gin team?
Well, on the Gin, well, it's open source, so everybody who wants to contribute is on the team, right? It's open.
Sure. I guess who are the main committers? I get that.
So the main committer might be only me, because a lot of like I'm originally a designer who can also code. So a lot of things I would just do in the browser and like designing in the browser. So Gin doesn't have, because that's also quite an often asked question, if there's a Figma file or a design file or even a design system or a style guide for Gin. Spoiler alert, there is not such a thing, at least not yet, because with the ability to do both, I just decided to make things easier and not wasting even more time on designing my own things and then creating the code for it. So I'm basically just like doing and creating what I think is best, but also based on a lot of user feedback. So it's not just my biased view on things.
That's fair. Yeah.
So sometimes it is, of course, because it's always the case. But we also try to make sure that every decision also has a bigger purpose and serves in the need of people who are using the product. We also get a lot of feedback from the different. Like it has quite a huge install base currently, and for example, Open Social from time to time provides feedback of feedback they got from their users, and then we look into it. If we want to, if they want to solve that issue on their front, or if we want to include that feedback in Gin. And stuff like that. So we get also a lot of feedbacks from different distributions, right? But also like from every other person who uses Gin.
Am I understanding you correctly in that Open Social is using the Gin admin theme?
Yes.
So will is the plan ever to get Gin into core like Claro did? Or are you planning on keeping it kind of contrib so you can move quickly and then just port things that makes sense back into Claro or whatever the core admin theme is?
Short answer, no. I don't think so. Long answer, yes. But only the best part of it. So, like Gin as its own thing, I don't think this will make it ever to core. It's also not the intention to do so. The intention is that Claro will just grow and that we have like an iterative approach to Claro to improve it over time. So the name in core will stay Claro, but the design of Claro might go towards the direction what Gin is today. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So because we already discussing a lot of different features we want to port or like up port to Claro, or bringing back from Gin to Claro, because it's so obvious that it's the better choice or that it's a huge improvement over what we have. But as I mentioned earlier, like the initial focus on Claro was accessibility, having it stable and like everything themed. And as the huge upfront work was to create a new design system, refactoring every component in Drupal to make sure it's accessible, it works again, that nothing breaks. This is a lot of effort. And I think the team around Laurie did a very, very great job on that. And there were some tough times, and it's a huge amount of work, even if the end product currently looks like a reskinned 7 theme, right? Because everything is still in the, or most of the things are still in the same place. the underhood changes for accessibility and to have like the starting point for the new design system. That was basically what took a lot of time and a lot of effort to make it once, but this time like making it great again. You know, like yeah. So that was like the main focus there. But we won't end the journey with Claro with the stable release. So we want to go further and further improve it with like like iterative cycles.
Okay.
So as we're coming to a close here, does Jin have a roadmap? And if so, what's on it? And also, where does it live? Is it in your head? Is it on Drupal.org? Is it in a document somewhere?
Yeah, so there's a roadmap. There's like an overall roadmap. There's a roadmap for beta 1, and there is now also like a meta issue for the facelift. What's included in there? These issues or like meta issues all live in the Jin issue queue. But of course, they're already quite outdated, as most of the time if you have a roadmap. I think like the final or like the most recent roadmap only lives in my head, to be honest. But yeah, I'm working hard to get this facelift out of the box or like out into the wild. So this should be ready in the next couple of days. I worked on that for the last, I don't know, 1.5 months. I also initially, when I presented what we will do at DrupalCon Europe a few months ago, I was like thinking I will do that in a few days' time, but that wasn't the case because it involved a lot of things. Because I also wanted to refactor basically like the whole underlying layer of files. So we now have components, CSS, and JavaScript. So before it was just like generating one single JavaScript file and one CSS file, because the intention in the beginning was just to have these overrides for accent colors. There was never the idea that it grows so big. So now was the time to refactor a lot of things, right? So now we only load overrides, for example, for the layout paragraphs module, if the layout paragraph module exists and is installed and active, right? Otherwise, we would just ship those overrides all the time, which doesn't make any sense, of course. So it includes a lot of optimization, and not just the visual one, also technical one. And I really wanted to make that all happen. We also remove a lot of stuff which is not needed. So I think we're removing 180 kilobytes of CSS with the facelift.
Oh wow!
Which is not a small portion. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I'm quite excited to get that out of the door. And yeah, I hope people like it.
So if somebody was interested in helping or wanted to get involved, what areas do you think that you would say you need the most help with right now?
I think the most help is because of my roots in design and front-end engineering. I mean, I have a lot of understanding how Drupal works because I'm also like a maintainer of different modules and a maintainer of Claro and stuff like that, or like a co-maintainer. But I really, from time to time, need more technical people. So backend devs, most likely, because sometimes there are just things I do on what I think is the best to do it, but there might be a more bright brain out there who knows, okay, this can be simplified or can be done easily, to get access to different data within Drupal, or like how we outline different stuff, or what we need to maybe do in a module, or we can do it in the theme. I think like these are the things where I might use more time than somebody else, which is like, I don't know, like a backend developer and does that things like on a daily business. So backend developers, of course, but also every other person is very welcome to contribute. So, like front-end engineers, we also need a lot of testing all the time because, where software is, there are bugs and stuff needs to be tested. So I think everybody would find something to do if they like to. So
Wonderful. Sascha, thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot for having me. It was great.
Yeah, it's been a great discussion. For our listeners, do you have questions or feedback? You can reach out to Talking Drupal on Twitter with the handle Talking Drupal, or via email at show@talkingdrupal.com. You can connect with our hosts and other listeners on Drupal Slack at the Talking Drupal channel. And if you're interested in show news, upcoming Drupal camps, local meetups, and Chad's Book Corner, you can sign up for a newsletter at talkingdrupal.com/newsletter.
You can promote your Drupal camp on Talking Drupal. Learn more at talkingdrupal.com/camp promo.
And thank you, patrons, for supporting Talking Drupal. Your support is greatly appreciated. You can learn more about becoming a patron at talkingdrupal.com and choosing the Become a Patron button.
Sascha, thanks again for joining us. If a listener, wanted to get a hold of you, ask more questions about Jin, try to support Jin, how would they go about doing that?
I think the easiest is to reach out to me on the Drupal Slack. So there's a Slack channel called Jin, but you can also DM me, or sometimes people ask in the admin UI channel, which is more for Claro, but you can also, ask questions there, of course, or you can reach me through Twitter or my contact form on my own site. So use whatever you find on the World Wide Web to contact me.
There you go. Kevin, how about you?
Kevin J. Thull on Twitter.
And Nick?
You can find me pretty much everywhere at Nixvan, NICXVAN.
And I'm John Picozzi. You can find me on all the social networks and Drupal.org at John Picozzi. And you can find out about EPAM at epam.com.
If you've enjoyed listening, we've enjoyed talking. See you guys next week.
Have a good one.